I am just a poor soul condemned by God, and cursed to walk in the shadow of death for all eternity, and sustain myself on fresh blood. Human blood is recommended.
Welcome to Now Playing Podcast Review of Dracula.
This is beyond science and understanding.
Hosted by Brock.
He's a prince.
Arnie.
He's an absolute gentleman. He even walked me to my door.
And Stuart.
Oh, I'm not superstitious.
That is a pity.
This episode will contain detailed plot spoilers and strong language.
It is likely that these creatures are the way they are as a result of a divine curse.
We hope you enjoy the show.
I will pray for your request.
Today we're discussing Dracula, starring Caleb Landry Jones, Christoph Waltz, Zoe Blue, Matilda De Angelis, Ewan's Abid, David Shields, directed by Luc Besson. This is Now Plague's Buttercup, Arnie.
And Stuart.
And this is Brockula. Ha ha ha. Hi, it's Brock.
Yeah, we knew.
Yeah, okay. I wasn't sure if you could. My Romanian accent's so authentic.
Well, this is your first time with us for Dracula. We've, of course, been covering all the Universal monsters, and it seems like every winter, when there's a lull in what's going on in theaters, we find our way back to these classic monsters. You have joined us for Frankenstein last year. This is your first Dracula pick.
Yeah, indeed. I have seen all the Universal Dracula movies, as we've discussed in other podcasts. I am a big fan of classic Universal horror movies, and I try to watch them all. I actually watched a weird sequel that Bela Lugosi was in it, but it wasn't made by Universal. It was considered a direct sequel. I am somewhat familiar with most of the movies you guys reviewed in the Dracula side of things. The Nosferatu, I have not watched most of those. I've watched the original, of course, the original classic, but I have not gotten around to watching all of them. Although, I gotta tell you, in anticipation of this one, because I was looking up all the Dracula movies I haven't seen, I actually went back and watched Dracula Untold.
It should have been Dracula Unseen.
Yes.
Yes. We made that joke, yes.
It wasn't terrible, it's watchable, but it certainly wasn't something I should watch this on purpose. So yes, I like vampire movies, who doesn't? I've watched all 7 seasons of Buffy the Vampire Slayer. I think I know plenty about vampires and what does and does not work in a vampire movie. Love at First Bite is a good time. Dracula Dead and Loving It is not. So yeah, I'm versed into Dracula, but obviously you guys have watched a little more than I have, and more than likely by our next time we do vampire movies, I will have been caught up completely on the Nosferatu.
Nosferatu.
And that's one thing I'll probably learn if I watch them, is how to say it.
But we're not doing Universal Dracula. What the hell are we doing?
Buying a week. You know, we had a free week. You really wanted to know, folks. It was like, do we do another video game? Not in the mood. We could have, but we had filler. We got this Bride of Frankenstein movie that is coming up. It's got Christian Bale. It's got Jesse Buckley. And that's a big movie in theaters that we're building towards. That's why we got some Frankenstein coming our way. We had this one extra week, and since they are releasing a Dracula movie this week, it felt like a good way to begin this return to classic monsters.
It was this or another video game movie. This sounded a little bit better, because we just had a conversation. We hadn't seen the video game movie we might have done. We hadn't seen this Dracula, of course. But looking at this, director Luc Besson from The Professional, I'm like, okay. Christoph Waltz, he's still, I think, an A-list actor. He's not top billed, but I'm like, okay, he's involved. That's a plus. And then Danny Elfman is doing the score. So even though this is a French production, they're not spending peanuts here. They're spending 45 million euros and getting name people in front of and behind the camera. I haven't heard a damn thing about this movie. I hadn't seen a trailer, but let's give this a shot.
Oh, I definitely saw the trailer. It's been running, and again, I don't think it's an accident that it's coming out in February. This thing, when it was released last summer, it was called Dracula, A Love Tale. I think they've dropped that second part of it, but I think that this is considered a Valentine's Day movie.
I was curious, you're calling this a French movie because of Luc Besson, the director, but, you know, the lead is an American, Christoph Waltz is German, there's plenty of British people here and other folks of different nationalities. Is it only considered French because Luc Besson is doing it? or is it filmed in France and Europe? Like, why wouldn't this be considered just a regular Hollywood movie?
Well, because it's not a Hollywood production company. It's Luc Besson production with EuropaCorp and filmed in Finland and no Hollywood production involved. And even the distributor, I don't think, is a Hollywood distributor. It's Société Nouvelle de Distribution.
Well, then why not speak French, though? It's all in English. It kind of seems weird to me that it's... Maybe I'm just being snobby about my movies.
Yeah, I think sometimes because they come out in America, we assume everything is filtered through Hollywood, a distribution company. But yes, this is a European production. Canal Plus also funded this. And Luc Besson, let's start there. He had a whole French career, a decade before The Professional. American audiences know him for the late 90s work. Professional, Fifth Element, maybe you saw The Messenger, Lucy, but he was an acclaimed French filmmaker before he made those works. And I was a big fan. He was kind of my entry into looking at directors. In the late 80s, early 90s, when I started getting into filmmakers, I made a point of following this guy's career. I saw all of his work. I thought he was a brilliant, stylish director.
I love The Professional. Can't believe we haven't discussed that film yet. That was my first discovering of Luc Besson, but I had heard about him before because of La Femme Nikita in 1990. I've still never gotten around to seeing that.
No, that's the one that I first saw, and I went back and saw Big Blue and Subway, and yeah, I like his French work. The fact that he's back in France makes me feel better than when he's making Hollywood shit.
I saw The Fifth Element in theaters because of his name and because of Bruce Willis and because of Mia Jovovich in that outfit. I know people love that film. I was sort of with the film, and then Chris Tucker showed up, and I was like, what the hell did this movie just become? And I have no interest in revisiting that movie.
I had the same thought, Arnie, because I went to see a science fiction Bruce Willis. I liked The Professional. But beyond Chris Tucker, I did find him a little taxing at times. I thought visually it looked beautiful. So my issue with the movie, more than any one performance, is that it looks so good, but the story isn't landing. And so The Fifth Element turned me off of Luc Besson. I didn't want to go see more stuff because The Professional was so good, and I just didn't like The Fifth Element as much as I wanted to like it so much more. I'm not saying I'm actively not watching his stuff, but I'm always questioning whether or not I want to see it because he's a director.
You just summed up his whole career. Looks great, incredibly stupid. I think you could say that about every single film he's ever made, including The Professional. By the way, I think that movie's a stupid movie, but it's very stylish.
Oh, very stylish, and it's well made. We'll be talking about this today. It's like some visuals in this are unbelievable, and what they're doing with the money they had, it's so beautiful in times. Like, you can't believe this movie was made overseas for less than $100 million.
Besson kind of trashed his reputation. He's much more loved and known in Europe, but they gave him enough rope to hang himself with. He made a film called Valerian, which is one of the most expensive European films of all time. And it's visually splendid. You'll be amazed by how it looks, but it was a big money loser for him. And I also think he got some allegations of sexual inappropriateness. And I think that this is a comeback. He's kind of disappeared off of the scene for, it feels like, a decade. And now here he is with Dracula.
Yeah, because I did see Lucy when that came out a decade ago, and that was so underwhelming. I was really up for that movie. I thought it looked so interesting as a concept, and the execution just did not live up.
I watched that because of ScarJo. And then once I realized it was Luc Besson, I'm like, yep, that tracks. And I have Valerian in my to-watch list since it came out, because it's a science fiction movie, and I would love to watch that. But then I'm like, oh, but this guy did The Fifth Element. I was disappointed with that. Am I going to want to watch this now? And that's really, it's been sitting there on my list for years.
Yeah. I think if you're going to enjoy them, you always have to give an enormous amount of floor to the fact that they won't make a whole lot of sense. And that if you're there for plotting or characterization, you don't go to this guy. But you know what? Dracula's well worn. If somebody wants to come and give a new visual look on Dracula, I expect Luc Besson to have his own visual take for it. I'm saying cool. And to hear Besson tell it, he doesn't like Dracula. He didn't make this movie because he wanted to tell Bram Stoker's story. I guess he made some little weird art film with this lead actor, Caleb Landry Jones, and said, I love working with you so much. You're my favorite actor since Gary Oldman. What else can we do? Why don't you be my Dracula?
Favorite actor since Gary Oldman. Maybe I'm missing something here, but Caleb Landry Jones is one and one thing only to me, and that's Banshee, the X-Men from First Class who wasn't good enough to even come back for the sequel. He was killed off screen before Days of Future Past.
I mean, you've seen him in other things. Get Out, he was the yokel brother that had the rivalry with our main character. 3 Billboards, I thought he was really good in that, actually. He had a nothing role in Twin Peaks in the 3rd season, but then again, so did everybody else. I guess he was Dogman. This was Luc Besson's unseen previous film, and while no one seemed to enjoy it, he enjoyed working with him and just said, now that you're Dogman, I'm going to make you Dracula.
That cartoon about the dog with the policeman?
No, some mentally ill Jerseyite who drives around with a pack of dogs.
Oh, I missed that one, yeah. I haven't seen the other Dogman either, just for the record.
I don't want any of it.
Okay, so let's find out if it sucks or not. Arnie, give us a plot.
In late 15th century Romania, Prince Vladimir of Wallachia, played by Caleb Landry Jones, is about to lead his people into battle against the Ottomans. Before the bloody fight, he asks the cardinal for God to keep safe Vladimir's wife, Elisabetta, played by Zoe Blue. But, of course, Elisabetta is killed by the Ottomans, and so Vladimir kills the cardinal and renounces God. Over the centuries, Vladimir became the immortal vampire calling himself Dracula, and he's convinced Elisabetta will be reincarnated. He first becomes a perfume salesman with the finest scent, thinking that will bring his reincarnated love to him. When that doesn't work, he starts creating an army of female vampires to scour the globe looking for his reborn bride. 400 years later, we meet an unnamed priest played by Christoph Waltz. He does secret missions for the Vatican investigating unholy things like vampires. There is one of Dracula's vampire scouts named Maria captured in Paris. He works with local Dr. Dumont to prove she is supernatural. Meanwhile, Jonathan Harker is sent to Romania to arrange a land deal for Dracula. He snoops around the castle and finds Dracula sleeping in a coffin. Dracula is going to kill Harker, but then Dracula sees a picture of Harker's fiancée, Mina, also played by Zoe Blue. Dracula spares Harker and travels to Paris to seduce Mina. He feasts on the blood of a convent of nuns, restoring his youthful appearance. Dracula courts Mina, and eventually Mina leaves to return to Dracula's castle as his bride. Harker escaped the castle and returned to Paris. Now the priest, Harker, and some others go back to Dracula's castle. There, the priest calls on Dracula to repent and not make Mina live in eternal damnation as Dracula has. Dracula agrees and lets the priest stake him. He dies in Mina's arms as credits roll.
Okay, and as we get started, as you say, we're starting in 1480. This is feeling a little familiar, right?
A couple of times. Anytime we get into Dracula's origin, I've come to think it's probably not a great sign. You know, there's a reason why it was never put in the book. We just got hints of it. But here, we're kind of going back to the old Vlad the Impaler inspiration.
Yeah, for sure. Which to me, I associate, there's that dark universe thing that you talked about, but I associate that with Coppola's movie quite specifically. I'm thinking a lot about that as we see what first looks like a woman about to be bit on the neck. She's winding a music box. She's looking away. The vampire is coming up behind her. But before you know it, they're doing a pillow fight and a food fight. And I'm like, oh, I guess they're just kids having some fun.
Yeah, it's very hard not to think of Coppola's Dracula throughout the entire movie. And up the top here certainly came to the fore. This whole scene with her in the bedroom, I think they're trying to pull out the rug from underneath us. Like, you think it's already Dracula, you think it's already a vampire. Then they start doing it, and then a whole army comes in, and it turns out, oh, he's the king, and she's the queen. And you're like, oh, wait a second, this is kind of weird because they're so young. And the whole thing just keeps barreling and keeps moving and keeps moving and keeps moving. And I got the impression that they were trying to make me think these are surprises. It wasn't surprising. It was just 3 different things happening in the span of 5 minutes of how to start a movie.
It's weird, but it also emphasizes you can remove the subtitle, but it's still clearly here in the film itself. This is a love tale. This is telling us that this relationship is the driving force for the entire movie. And what about it is so important? What I hear is Vlad is the only Christian around with all of these Muslim armies about to invade. And I get the sense when he goes to this cardinal, he's like, yeah, I kind of know I'm going to die, but God needs to protect my woman. I've fallen in love, and as long as God can save her, then I will die for God. And this betrayal is actually more or less exactly how Coppola also frames his version.
Yeah, it's definitely bringing me back to that, making me wonder, is it possible to be too derivative if the film you're ripping off is 35 years old? It's like, on the one hand, I'm also thinking a lot about Coppola. On the other hand, it has been 2 generations in between. So is it wrong for a foreign filmmaker to take heavy inspiration from this telling of the tale?
No, yeah, I agree. It's fair game, right?
Absolutely, but some of the elements in Coppola's movie aren't necessarily in the book. So it's funny that he's adhering to Coppola's as if maybe he didn't read the original book and maybe he only knows the other movie, because it seems like he keeps highlighting the Coppola story versus the story from the book or other versions or iterations.
And keep in mind, Besson said, I love this actor, favorite actor since Gary Oldman. What other parts can we work on? Well, how long does it take you to think, oh, Gary Oldman did Dracula? And I think Caleb, even from the get-go, he is doing Gary Oldman's accent, for sure.
I have to tell you, though, I really enjoyed the battle scene. When they chop the barrels of oil and they dump it in, like, the line of fire, that entire battle scene was unexpected. I thoroughly enjoyed it, and I loved his dragon suit of armor. I thought that thing was so cool. That would make an incredibly cool action figure.
I liked the look of this. I liked the scope of it. I was surprised that it didn't feel too chintzy, given that this is a mid-budget production. I wasn't as taken with his dragon suit of armor, but it was kind of cool. I wouldn't buy the toy.
Yeah, well, I'm not sure that there will be toys. Again, a love tale is what we're being told here. And you know what? That feels on par, right? Dracula movies, what makes them different from Nosferatu movies is Nosferatu movies usually feel like they're about immigration and infection, and they're kind of horror movies. And Dracula movies are about forbidden love and sex, where he's a Mac, right?
Oh, yeah.
And Caleb Landry Jones got a weird vibe, not unlike all the other actors that have played him, right? Gary Oldman is not conventionally attractive. Bela Lugosi, not conventionally attractive. Langella, you can keep going on. They make their weirdness kind of part of their Macking. And I guess we're to think that everything he's doing is not for God, but so he could get home to this woman. Here's what I heard. I want to see if you guys heard this. He's sending them to be with their cousin's place? Our cousins? These two are related?
Oh, I didn't catch that. I thought he was just sending them off to his cousin's house, not their cousins.
And that may be, but his accent is thick, and when you turn on the closed captioning, he says, our cousins.
Oh. Okay. Well, maybe because she's married that they're now all cousins together, like, you know what I mean? Like, my wife's family is now cousins-in-laws.
Or maybe God don't like this, right? Maybe that's what the problem is God is like, y'all shouldn't be doing this.
Maybe.
Yeah, it's a long time ago, and in royal bloodlines, sometimes you want to keep it pure.
Yeah, sure.
Yeah, exactly. It's only weird by modern day standards because we know about genetics and how problematic this could be. But yes, certainly for centuries, this was a norm. But I just wondered if that wasn't part of the forbidden nature of their love. Why God would choose to test this noble warrior in this way. Because clearly he acts like he's the second coming of Jesus, right? I'm doing this all for God. I'm the one that can defeat the Ottomans. I'm so great. And he's really pissed that God rewards his fierceness on the battlefield by taking away the one thing he said, don't take away.
But when he's going and seeing the cardinal and saying, just make sure nothing happens to my wife, the only thing that surprised me is that the cardinal himself didn't kill the wife. I mean, I know this wife is dead meat from the very beginning. I'm surprised how long they draw it out, that she's trying to escape and he's victorious in battle and takes all of those heads and puts them on pikes to show his enemies, hey, we've won, and yet they still send a small troop, and will he get there in time? You know, it's supposed to be suspenseful as Vlad is chasing after Elisabetta.
No, it's tragic. We're to know that she's not going to live. We're to know he's going to become Dracula. That's not going to be like a, oh my God.
Right. But also think about it this way. As you just said a minute ago, it's been a couple of generations since Coppola's Dracula came out. Dracula movies may not be top of mind for a lot of folks. For those who don't know the story, this is blatantly telling you so, that this is what's going to happen and this is what this version of Dracula is going to be. We know it. The three of us know she's dead meat immediately. So for us, what he has to do is make the scene compelling. And what he does is he has the queen riding a horse, I guess on a plain or a tundra. I couldn't really understand where they were. Sand, and the three guys chasing after her, and the land has bear traps on it. And I thought that was, talk about visuals and danger. Instead of a minefield, you have bear traps all over the place, and the horse's feet get caught in it, and eventually her feet gets caught in it, and eventually the king's, when he comes to save her, his horse gets in it. It amps up the tension and the danger by having this little mini action scene, which I thoroughly enjoyed.
Not only that, but the bear traps kind of feel like fangs, right?
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
So they're like foreshadowing the thing that he'll become. Because yes, of course, we know that he won't get there in time. And actually, he does get there, but by the time he's smiting the last guy, the assassin has already stabbed her. And so all he can do is watch his love fall down dead. And he looked up to the sky, and the sky is clear. There's no clouds, but there's a thunderclap. And so it almost feels like God laughing. It's God saying, I'm testing you.
But Stuart, I got the impression, and I rewound it and watched it twice, I got the impression that his sword went through the guy and then into his wife.
That's what I thought too. I rewound it because I think what they're saying is, oh, how tragic. In his attempt to save her, he's the one who killed her by throwing that sword. They don't show it clearly, but where she's bleeding is exactly where he stabbed that guy in the back. So I think his sword went through the target and then killed his wife.
Possibly, but you could also make the argument, and I think it's a little less clownish if you go with this version, that even though he stabbed the guy in the back, that guy had a knife and had already stabbed his love. Either way, it's a cruel twist of fate. This was somebody that, again, had just won a big epic win for Christianity. The Christian God should be benevolent, and instead he taketh away. He punish instead of reward. And so what should be a very happy day ends up being this Vlad coming back and taking it out on that poor cardinal, right? What did he do? He even prayed on it, but I guess it wasn't good enough because he's going to get skewered by his own Jesus staff.
Well, he does claim to have the ear of Jesus. I mean, he kind of lied in that regard, so, he kind of got what had coming to him.
But here's the thing. He does make the point. God does not perform reincarnation, and that's what Vlad is like, give me my wife back? Look, I do not want to trivialize or endorse suicide, but wouldn't it make more sense if he killed himself and tried to get to her than expect a corpse to come back to life?
Well, he does that. He tries to kill himself numerous times.
You're talking 40 more minutes into the movie.
Well, they tell us that 40 minutes later in the movie. It's a flashback to tell us that because they flash forward to this movie's modern day. But in a flashback later on, they tell us that, yes, he's trying to kill himself and he couldn't do it.
I guess my point is, wouldn't you do that instead of killing the cardinal and saying, give me back my wife? That's not going to happen. Not a Christian God, anyway.
Something magic happens, and I feel cheated that we don't find out what, because we're going to go from here 400 years in the future. We don't find out how Dracula became supernatural. He just goes from killing a cardinal to being an immortal being. Is it this act of defying God that has made him unholy?
It's the same thing in the Coppola movie, Arnie. Yes. I refuse to be your servant anymore. I refuse to play by your rules. I didn't know you could do that and not die, but yes, I'm not going to be your Jesus anymore. I think we're really to understand that this guy was someone special in the church. And by renouncing God in this way, he has now become the Antichrist. And that was also a major theme of Gary Oldman, how they depicted him. That he turns to Eastern religion and Eastern looks and is wearing like a Japanese kimono and headpiece is showing how far away he's moved from Western theology to Eastern theology. It's a choice he makes in this moment. I'm not going to be Christian anymore. But yes, we will jump 400 years, 1880, to Paris, which is not normally where they set this. Usually it's England. But, Besson, back in the home country. I don't mind it. It's a beautiful city.
No, it's a nice change of pace, in fact. I like that we're not in London again for this. Let's go ahead and try to have something a little bit different. It's going to be the same story in different backdrop, but I'm game for that. Anything to mix it up.
Yeah, and the biggest change happens happens right here. Normally we're used to Van Helsing, man of science, being the antithesis to Dracula, and instead we go with priest, Christoph Waltz, yet again shrugging through another role.
He does give a Christoph Waltz type performance for sure. Very same cadences. Guy delivers every time. It seems like a tailor-made movie for him. I mean, unless, of course, he does a Frankenstein movie in the same year. Oh, wait, he did. So it seemed really strange that he did Frankenstein and Dracula. Is he going to be in the new Mummy movie? Let's find out.
Yeah, I definitely feel like he could have the career of Peter Cushing or Christopher Lee and just keep doing these old horror movie characters.
I'm excited to see him here, despite the fact that, yes, he does basically do the same performance every time I see him anymore. I like the performance he gives. I like his humor. I like his energy. Are they playing a little too coy that he's Van Helsing? I mean, he's clearly Van Helsing.
But Van Helsing was a scientist, and I think it's an important distinction that this movie is framing it around. This is a vessel of God. That same God that Vlad rejected is now sending his agent to bring him back to the church.
Thematically speaking, it fits much better to have him as a priest than as Van Helsing.
Yeah.
Absolutely true.
Yeah. And yeah, it's kind of funny that he's drinking wine in the pew and laughing about, he says some vaguely sacrilegious things throughout the movie to get some laughs. When we get down here in the basement and we find out that they've captured, for the first time ever, a real live vampire.
And what a performance this woman gives as a vampire. Kind of remind me of course, Drusilla from Buffy the Vampire Slayer, how bonkers she was, but the intensity this actress has and the way she's able to flip back and forth from coy to evil to bonkers. She's all over the place, but it completely works. I feel she does some things here that other people don't even try to do later in the movie. Like, she is one of the better actors in this film, and I just could not get enough of her when she was on the screen.
She brings some humor. Like, she's smiling through her fangs, and it's very clear to Priest what she is, but the head of this institution is a dopey scientist who doesn't know anything about vampires or superstition. So we have to have these scenes of, let me show what happens when sunlight hits her. Let me show you when I produce a crucifix. And I did laugh when the doctor is trying to call it hysteria, and she has a sexual appetite beyond comprehension, and Priest is like, I don't know, that might be healthy. Again, he's very cool with the idea of a libidinous woman, even though he's a priest.
Why wouldn't he be? It wouldn't affect him any. But
or would it? I don't know. The way Waltz is playing it, he feels like this is the priest that don't have to follow all the rules, right?
I kind of thought we might find out he wasn't even a priest by the end of it. But no, he's apparently super priest.
Yeah, I think his mission is to bring Vlad back to God, and that will happen. That is kind of what the story is. But this Maria character is kind of a twist on Lucy. Usually this story is told through Mina's friend Lucy. We saw it in the Coppola movie, but by having her already be a vampire, it sort of cuts to the chase.
Well, yeah, this movie could use a little more cutting to the chase. Some of these scenes do linger. Again, though, I would say these scenes are here not just for us really to entertain us, to set the story straight, but to tell the audience who is completely new to the story of Dracula, or this take on Dracula anyway. They need these scenes for some sort of backstory. I didn't understand, though, one thing. Christoph Waltz tells us the church has been looking for Dracula for 400 years. His MO is to return Vlad to God. Then who in the church is aware of all this going on? Like, there's so many pieces that aren't coming together. We have to take on, pardon the expression, on faith, why people are here or what they're doing.
I think maybe we'll have an answer for that when we have the flashback that explains what Dracula did for 400 years, or at least 300 years. What this order knows about vampires, I think it's just a way of helping an audience that is overly familiar with the lore just kind of get to it. We don't have to have too many scenes of people having explained to them what a vampire is.
It just is a little frustrating if we're going to have this early scene. I want to see from Dracula Untold where he goes to the cave and finds the master vampire and gets turned into the vampire type thing. I'm frustrated by the we jump and he just became supernatural kind of thing.
What's frustrating about him rejecting God and becoming a vampire?
I never see him become a vampire. I see him rejecting God. A lot of people reject God. They don't become supernatural beings for it.
He got dragged out of the room in mock crucifix pose, and one would presume, once we put together the flashback, that in finding out that he could not die, that God had taken away that to prevent him from being with his woman ever, presumably, that he became bloodthirsty. I mean, I get what you're saying, but I think it's a metaphor, right? This is about love and religion. Anyway, usually where these Dracula stories start doesn't happen until about the 25-minute mark. We have Jonathan Harker coming in carriage to, I guess, Transylvania. I think it's Romania of some kind. It's Wallachia. We'll have him be given the usual superstitious local will give him a crucifix, and he'll be followed by wolves up until he walks into this castle. And sure enough, Caleb Landry Jones shows up and says, "Sorry for my dramatic entrance." And I'm like, you need to apologize to Gary Oldman. That's his wig and his accent, and you need to return it right now. It's pretty much on the nose, him emulating Gary Oldman. And one wonders if Besson asked him to do that.
Well, he also doesn't say the word le. He always says Dracula. He doesn't say Dracula, ever. So very much that. Also, they always have Harker come in some sort of real estate issue. They have him here for the same reason. And it's very familiar, which is fine. But yes, they usually start Dracula tales right here. So it's kind of interesting that we get the first 25 minutes. That's something different, at least, for most Dracula movies. But yeah, once we get to these scenes, it feels extremely familiar.
And the score, too. One of the reasons I was excited is to hear a new Danny Elfman score. I'm actually, in 2026, just listening to every Danny Elfman score he's ever done. I'm up to Mission Impossible right now, so I have been really appreciating his evolution as a composer, and here he's ripping off the Coppola score pretty bad. There's a lot of the notes that harken to the original theme that was done by Wojciech Kilar back in 90. I love that original Dracula score. It's an all-timer. And here, I think Elfman was ordered to ape it.
Yeah, and it's built around a music box, too. Never forget, the first shot in the whole movie is she's got this music box, and they're going to keep coming back to that, and it sort of represents their love. And so, it's got that kind of music box quality. You think about that kind of song, that kind of sound, Elfman fits that bill. It works well enough, but again, if you wanted Dracula to be totally reimagined as someone that saw the Coppola movie 34 years ago, or whatever it was, I'm finding that this is not moving the needle too far. And they even know that. There's this Easter egg here. I read about it. I didn't see it. But do you guys notice when Dracula brings this guy into the dining room and there's all these paintings of him? They're actually paintings of Bela Lugosi and Frank Langella and Gary Oldman and Christopher Lee and all the actors that have ever played Dracula.
Oh, I didn't catch it.
No, really? I didn't see that.
Yeah.
That's a nice touch.
I would have loved to see that, yeah.
Yeah. And Brad Pitt is there too. I guess Interview with a Vampire, but he wasn't Dracula, but whatever.
Well, Lestat maybe had Tom Cruise instead of Brad Pitt then, if you're going to do it, because Lestat is the evil one.
Yeah, but keep in mind, Besson doesn't even care about Dracula. Again, he just loves this actor, and this actor's going to do a whole lot of bits with squeezing rat blood into a drink and making crucifixes fly into fireplaces, and by the end of it, this guy's going to open the casket, and there it is.
That goes by pretty quickly, in fact. I was surprised, again, seeing all these different Dracula retellings, how quick it goes from Harker showing up to Harker finding the coffin. Usually, there's some sexy women floating around and some other mysteries that lead Harker to maybe I should go exploring. Usually, there's some fellatiating of Harker's finger before he finds the coffin.
Seducing Harker is a part of it, yes. Instead of women, we get gremlins, or in this case, gargoyles.
Gargoyles, yes. I thought it was a cool effect. I couldn't tell if it was people in suits or CGI or both. I think I probably used both.
Yeah.
But I thought it looked really good, consistent, no matter what they were doing, either people, puppets, or CG. The look throughout was consistent, and that really made me happy. But yeah, those guys were appropriately cute and creepy at the same time.
Tells you the vibe that they're going for, right? This is not a horror movie. I know once I see those gargoyles, I'm like, they're not really wanting this to be scary. Coppola's movie was, yes, about religion and sex, but it also was trying to be scary. And when you see these things, you know that Besson doesn't give a shit about scary. He just thinks it's funny. And it is funny watching this guy strung up and turned upside down, and Caleb nicks his neck and is collecting his blood in a bowl and is about to finishing him off, but the guy shows an interest in his backstory. And this is where we get all we're going to know about how Dracula became Dracula.
But there was a funny line, too. He says, "What's your final wish?" He says, "I want to hear your story. I'm dying to hear it." And then Dracula acknowledges the joke. I wish Dracula did not acknowledge the joke and let us just have it. But I thought that was really fun, and the lightheartedness to it. I thought the actor who played Harker was just wonderful also. He was just wonderfully obtuse to the situation the whole time until he gets strung up to die. He was just really funny and entertaining. But yes, here is where we get the backstory we've already alluded to of how we got from the beginning of the movie to where we are today.
And when Dracula does laugh at that joke, he laughs kind of like a baboon, doesn't he? He has this really strange ape-like laugh when he's in monster Dracula mode. I'm hoping that when he starts to woo Mina, he's not laughing like that. That would almost be like a Seinfeld plot of, oh, I found this really handsome guy, but when he laughs, he sounds like an ape. It'd be that kind of thing. But here, he's just really going all out. I gotta say, I'm not liking Caleb Landry Jones as this aged vampire. And now that he has to hold the stage and monologue, and as we see these flashbacks of what Dracula has done for 400 years, Luc Besson may like him as much as Gary Oldman. I do not. He does not have Gary Oldman's range. He does not have Gary Oldman's instincts. He does not go as big as Gary Oldman does, which is one of his great talents when it came to his 90s stuff.
He's kind of big here, but I'll vote and say they're about the same thing when playing Dracula. I don't feel the performance is that different. Ape laugh aside, it's pretty much like watching Gary Oldman licking razors all over again.
Yeah, except for like minor details. I got Oldman's take on the character, and I think it works. Again, it's not like every version of Dracula that we've seen does this.
Mm-hmm.
So it's somewhat novel that he's going back to that well.
Yeah.
However, it's not so bad that we're like, oh my God, can you believe he's doing that? He's doing it well enough that it's like he's doing this version of the character. If he was terrible, then we'd be having a different conversation.
Yeah, I agree. I don't have a problem with him, is I guess what I would say. I'm not going to cast him down for ripping off Gary Oldman. He's doing what Gary Oldman did and having about the same effect. But the movie certainly is going to have a unique take on vampires here. They need perfume. In order to woo, we need to travel the world, India, France, Italy, and find the flowers to create the perfect perfume.
Yeah, like instead of having pheromones that a lot of vampires have in these kinds of stories, he has to make them artificially, right? And he finds a way to make the perfume to beat all others. And it took him about 100 years to do it, but he did it.
It was kind of reminding me of that movie, the perfume story that you put in our book, Stuart.
Kind of. It is that story.
Yeah, it's that movie with Alan Rickman, yeah.
Yeah, Patrick Süskind. It's one of my favorite books. I absolutely love perfume. And yes, they are totally taking that.
It just seemed very strange to me that Dracula thought, if I make the perfect scent, my reincarnated wife will come from wherever she is in the globe and find me due to this scent. And then it goes nowhere. It's a dropped plot.
Well, one of the things I love about the book Perfume is it's a metaphor about the artist and what it is to be the artist and how society treats the artist. I don't know if we're supposed to see Vlad in that way. I feel like he's royalty. He's not really creating anything. I feel like other perfumers are actually responsible for this. He just goes and buys it. So I don't know what we're to get out of the fact that he's made this perfume other than it took a long time and he can make all of these women now dance. We have a fun little dance sequence right here in the middle of the movie where we see him ballroom after ballroom making people spin around to his whim.
I dug the choreography. I thought it was a lot of fun.
Mm-hmm. Me too. And this is where he finally ends up in the court of France, Versailles, and this is where we see Maria got turned. This woman that's in the basement of the hospital sanitarium, she's one of these courtesans laughing and let them eat cake kind of snob. And this is the first time I think he's ever bitten anyone. This is where he draws blood.
Well, it's the first time we see it, and he goes to town. Like, he gets...
I think it's the first time.
He gets a tantrum here, Stuart. I think he says, I'm tired of doing this myself. I decided to outsource.
Mm-hmm.
And he's delegating responsibility.
Yes.
And decides to sire a whole bunch of people. So he had to eat something, Stuart, to keep looking young, right? Because it's been 100 years or so. And we already learned, well, maybe you haven't learned yet in this movie, that if he drinks blood of younger people, he appears younger, just typical vampire stuff. And here he looks still young, so therefore we know he's feeding on humans, just this is the first time he does it maybe so openly or sires other vampires.
maybe he's eating bugs or rats, because he will say that he needs blood and human blood is preferred, not necessarily required. I kind of thought he might be doing that Louis Interview with a Vampire, I'm not eating human type thing at this point.
Yeah, to Arnie's earlier point, should we have more in this backstory about the Catholic Church forming the order to chase vampires, introducing vampires? Why have they been following him? How have they been following him? If they've been trying to find him, why didn't they go to his castle, which is where he's spending most of his time? You could ask those why questions and be pretty unsatisfied. Again, Besson, not great with plots, but it is a cool-looking sequence.
But if you're going to go with the religion thing and the blood thing, so when you take communion, right, they symbolize the blood of Christ as the wine. So wouldn't that be, if he's going against God, then he would drink the blood of humans? Like, there's kind of a parallel thing you can go there that they can completely explore more, and they drop the ball on that as well.
Yeah. And it wasn't clear in the Coppola movie either, but I mean, it was there, but it wasn't spelled out. I guess what I'm saying is neither movie tells this story as well as I would like, but the element is in both. And so, yes, he gives up on having to run around. He's tired of all these balls and trying to impress people. So he just creates vampires that will be his agents. I think he hands them a picture from his family book. We see that there was a torn page. And I guess her job, Maria, is just supposed to run around and hold it up to every chick she sees until she finds the reincarnation.
Here's another element that I don't quite understand. So later on in the movie, he does say that a soul that's so pure can be reincarnated. Where did he get that from?
Yeah, in Coppola's, it was more clear that reincarnation is an Eastern concept. That is not something that Western religions, Christianity, other than the Son of God, nobody comes back from the dead, right?
Right.
So, yes. That he turned his back and wore kabuki hair and did all of that was a part of his rejection of God. It doesn't really work for me, but it's a part of the story. It's in all of the stories, right?
All of them, yes.
That he meets the girl 400 years later and has got to have her again. That there's a special girl. It just seems part of the cliche. This is a love story after all.
Yeah, but the cliche I always took it to be, Stuart, is that he thinks it's the reincarnation of his long-lost love, not literally the reincarnation of his long-lost love. Here, he's searching for that reincarnated woman, not the other way around. So that's the difference to me why I need a more of an explanation on what makes you think this is going to happen. Now, if he's just a 400-year-old guy who's lost it and is waiting for this, is hinging on it, that'd be something to mention. You know, it would be something like we need to have. So while I'm enjoying a lot of the elements going on, you think about it for just a quick second, it's like 3 lines. You could pop a line here, you could pop a line there, and everything makes more sense. It'd be much more satisfying.
Is this the work of God? Did God bring her back to further test him or to bring him back into the fold? I don't know. You would need more written to that. It's possible. We could fill in lots of this blank ourselves, but it probably is the job of the screenwriter, who is Besson. One more interesting detail I find is that this actress, we cut back to Jonathan, and he's like, well, you know, I'm going to get married too. And this is where we have the locket. And he's like, oh, this is her. This is my girl. Zoe Blue. I had never heard of this woman before. When I watched the film, I'm like, she looks like somebody. What's her story? She is the daughter of Roseanna Arquette. I don't know if you guys know that.
No, I didn't.
And Roseanna Arquette was the star of one of his early films, The Big Blue. She was sort of the muse to this man that was also kind of supernatural and all that. So I feel like Luc Besson is casting himself as Dracula, looking back on his career from long ago, back in the 80s, when he was a hit, beloved director, and going, I want to reclaim that as well. It's kind of a cool postmodern thing that's happening here, and that I'm looking at Roseanna Arquette reincarnated, so to speak, in this role.
No, I had no idea. Different last name. Didn't know the Arquettes had moved on to a next generation of their Hollywood royalty there. I don't see it in her performance, I'll say that. I'm not thinking of David. I'm not thinking of
Rosanna, Patricia,
Alexis.
Yes, admittedly, it's a passing resemblance. I didn't see it until I read it, and then I can't not see it. But again, just an interesting quirk, a personal detail, something that helps this filmmaker. Like, I feel like he's telling us something about himself as he's telling this very familiar tale. And we're cutting back to Paris, where we're meeting Mina. She is now coming to the sanitarium and seeking help. She was friends with Maria, and she wants to make sure that that vampire in the basement is still okay after watching her go crazy at the wedding.
I like this scene when the orderly guy, the young man, comes in and says, excuse me, that woman looks like the person in the waiting room. And then when Christoph Waltz and the doctor come out, their face is like gobsmacked. And I love that moment because it could have been so funny and humorous and the moment could not have landed, but they really made sure their surprise was real. And this poor woman who has no idea what's going on is about to be thrust into this crazy world. This entire scene plays so well. And it makes the difference because while I have all these complaints about this or that, there are moments like this that do land that really help the movie continue to be interesting to watch. Otherwise, by this point in the movie, I would be laughing at every little choice they make.
And you know what I like about this as well? And maybe it's in the other ones. I don't know. I'd have to go back to Coppola to see. Winona Ryder is so bad in that movie, I don't think she has chemistry with anyone. But Mina in this version says, yeah, Jonathan and I got engaged real fast. I don't know if I do love him. Like, at this point that I realize, we're to want her to be with Dracula. That's the happy ending. We don't want Jonathan to make a rope out of the bed sheets and get back to her so they can get wed. We're not for that couple. We are for the vampire. But Jonathan is, of course, trying to escape, and the gargoyles are taking swipes at him, and they fall through the lake as he's stumbling away. I did like all that stuff.
I wish I liked the gargoyles more than I do. They just kind of chintzy and not cute enough for me. It was like they were in an uncanny valley.
Yeah, it was really fun, though, when they were trying to poke him with the stick when he's hanging out the window, because they're little and they're small and they can't fly. I mean, if they could fly, it's a whole different kind of danger, right? A horror movie, right? They're supposed to be scary. They would be flying all over them like bats. The fact that they're little gargoyle guys was really entertaining. I thought the whole time he was escaping could have been high comedy. They could have done a whole comedic shtick with it, because this actor was really funny in the other scene, but it's not played for comedy. It's played for desperation, but it's not played for frights either. It's kind of a middling kind of area, but again, the actor sells it, and the gargoyles are just menacing enough to make it all work, that he did not escape easily, but he was able to get away.
I'm with it. The goofiness is characteristic of this Dracula, and I'm leaning into it. And speaking of goofy, you've mentioned that in order to be young, so far Caleb has been under pounds of old age makeup. In order to get back to Mina and be the man that he wants to be from 1480, he's going to need to drink a whole nunnery. And I just love the scene of him showing up as a beggar and then breaking out that perfume to turn the convent into his drink of choice.
It was a strange scene, and I hadn't entirely put together how closely this was going to follow Coppola, where the old withered Dracula would become young, sexy Beatlemania Dracula. So when I see this happening, it's a nice bit of violence to wake me up, because we are well past the halfway point of this movie. We have taken too damn long to get here, and so when he starts slaughtering nuns, it wakes me up.
It's a grabber, and I think we needed it. And yeah, again, more dancing too. The nuns are kind of moving in unison and do like a whole cheerleader pyramid by the end of it.
And they're almost fighting to get killed. It's kind of a nice...
Take me, yeah.
Right. It was a very memorable scene.
Yeah. And again, it gets back to that war with God. See what God does to you. He makes you lock up your bodies and be withering away and unloved and unsexed, and I'm going to sex you up. Anyway, after he finishes with them, he rides into Paris and frees Maria, and Maria's going to be the one to come back to her friend. We get a whole backstory of kind of what happened at her wedding. I guess she was a vampire since 1780s, right? So she got engaged to this other guy while still a vampire, and when the bishop showed up to marry them, she said she didn't want to get married in a church. I guess she didn't want clergy there at all, because she tried to kill the bishop. I thought that was funny.
It was really funny.
Yeah.
Yeah, I enjoyed it.
Anyway, you're right. She's an enjoyable character. Maybe in a different movie, right? She's kind of doing this comedy thing, and she'll come in with a black parasol trying to block the sunlight and then invite her friend out for, I think, Bastille Day. I think it's the French Revolution anniversary.
I thought the sunlight thing was a little... because she didn't have the parasol when they're on the balcony. I thought, didn't they kind of like singe her earlier with sunlight?
Yes. One beam of sunlight burnt her hand on fire, and now she's standing under a lace black parasol and being like, ooh, fanning herself.
Exactly right. So like it was a little inconsistent.
Very.
And they could have waited till dusk or something to have her go out too. Like they didn't have to do it in daylight. So they made a boo-boo with this one, considering they had made a big scene about it earlier. So yeah.
Yeah, it's silly. But again, I kind of enjoy this character as silly, and I think where I'm landing with this movie is, all right, we're just getting silly Luc Besson Dracula, and that's par for the course. He makes silly, stupid movies.
And I'm just not going with it. It's just a little too silly. It's just a little too stupid, unfortunately. And I'm finding myself really wanting to get more of the battle between the priest and the vampire and less of what we're getting.
But what about a love story? If that indeed is what this is about, what we get next is the promised reconnection between Mina and her Vlad. We have a whole day out at this carnival and fireworks on the balcony, all of this stuff. He is going to woo her. What do you think?
I think Jonathan is dodging a hell of a bullet. It's good to find out about this now about your fiancé instead of after she's taking half of everything.
I don't know. This is 1880, Artie.
I like the carnival scene. I didn't need it to go so long. I do understand why it's here. Dracula's brooding in the corner, trying to win her over. Honestly, you could have cut most of this carnival scene because I don't really think it's necessary to get them from point A to point B. The mermaid bit was funny, but beyond that, they go right back to the hotel and you promised me hot chocolate again. So like they start the scene with, I'll get you a hot chocolate, and they go back at the end of the carnival, I'll get you a hot chocolate. So like, okay, what can we just get the hot chocolate and skip the whole finagle? What the hell?
Yeah, but it's kind of looks like that opening montage. Just don't forget they sword fought with a pillow, and that's kind of like how they're getting close here at the firing range. They're trying to do in montage what they did to show the love in the beginning. And what I can't tell is he supposed to be sexy or creepy? Because it comes off more creepy than sexy to me. They don't have a whole lot between them.
See, I thought it was really creepy, and then she's taking it as sexy, and I'm like, wait, am I reading this entire movie wrong?
I think we're supposed to want them to be together.
It kind of reminded me of like Steven Tyler, and he's dating a much younger woman, like a rock star.
Alicia Silverstone.
Right. Somebody's really attracted. These young women are really attracted to these older rock stars. And that's exactly the vibe I was getting off her.
Well, knowing what I know about Luc Besson and his 13-year-old bride girlfriend thing, and now you're telling me this is the daughter of Roseanna Arquette who worked with him.
And I think had an affair with him, yes. And The Professional, that was a movie about a very strange kind of love.
Mm-hmm.
I'll just put it that way.
I liked The Professional better before I knew about the director, is what I can say, and have more kind readings of that movie before I knew about him. So yes, I'm now kind of getting creeped out that this may be Luc Besson putting into film some fantasy about his former star's daughter.
Yeah, no, I think that's happening. I mean, it's in French culture. I don't want to label them all pedophiles, but it is very much historically, you can find in their art and in a lot of what they do, this idea about romancing youth. I'll put it that way, that they make the young, the childish very, very attractive, and they're not afraid to sexualize. And is that creepy? I mean, can that work? I just don't think this movie's a horror movie. So I'm asking you to think about it as, is this a love story you want to see ignite?
I don't know. It's a Dracula movie, right? So, like, this is the plot. This is the reason he does everything, is the love that he's lost and is trying to reclaim. I just think here it comes across really weird. It's an aspect that I don't normally think about when I watch a Dracula movie, how much older someone is or younger someone is. I mean, they're hundreds of years old, but they both look the same age. Here, he looks so much older than she does, even though the actor and these other actors look the same age in the beginning of the movie. But for some reason, him as a human does not look like the same age he did in the flashbacks. He looks so much older. And is it because the actor is walking around more worldly? Maybe he's not as flagrant with his body movements. I don't know. I didn't pick up anything like that. All I know is it made me very uncomfortable to see this man with this woman, and I don't completely get why she falls for him, because later on they tell us he didn't use the special pheromone perfume on her. So there has to be something else going on that I'm missing, because she's getting flashbacks when they touch, that it actually is a reincarnated person. So this is not just a fantasy he has in his head, is actually a thing that she actually is the reincarnation that he's been looking for 400 years?
It'd be all kinds of creepy if this woman were forced to do this. If the music box hypnotized her and against her will. Well, if it did, then we'd be rooting for Jonathan. We'd be rooting for Priest. Save her, save her, save her from this evil. But I don't think that this story is saying us save us from this evil. I think it's saying her love is with this guy for 400 years. It's kind of a party killer that after the night out that she gets back home and there's her frostbitten fiance and the priest and they're all like, let me check your neck. Okay, good. She's like, goes back to her room and there's Dracula. She makes that choice. It's not perfume. It's not hypnosis. I would rather live my life with you. And if she could just go in downstairs and tell them that, maybe the end of this movie would be very different. But instead, Priest is like, we got to keep chasing them.
I wasn't prepared for this story to go that way. I wasn't prepared for her to be so lustful for Dracula and so not into Harker. I think it's always been a reading of Dracula is how into Dracula is Mina, but this is taking it to its furthest possible level of why was she ever with Harker to begin with?
And yet, I'll just posit this delicately because I don't know facts. I really don't. But if you were accused of sexual harassment and it was cleared, maybe you want to advocate, maybe your defense is she wanted it. And so that is, I think, what this movie is saying. Dracula isn't a predatory beast that takes young women. Women want to be with Dracula because he's hot. That's Luc Besson's take on Dracula.
And again, I think that could be seen as a lot of people's takes on Dracula back to Bram Stoker. You know, he's always been a sexy creature of the night.
Yeah, certainly for a generation raised on sparkle vampires, right? They are boyfriends. They are the idealized guy that you could never have in real life. And I think for some portion of this audience, they're going to be totally cool with these two running away Romeo and Juliet style in a coffin to try and live the rest of their afterlife together. But I guess before we do, we have to kill Maria, sadly. I mean, I enjoyed her, but we have to have the scene where she goes back to her husband and Priest and the others bust in and grab swords.
What a great scene that is. I love her in this movie too, but she no longer is necessary to have around, and they give her a glorious death. They shoot her, she flies back, and then her fiance realizes, oh, these guys are telling the truth after all, because she got up from a gunshot, and back then, of course, a gunshot wound is instantaneously fatal. And then they chop her head off, which was just glorious. Her little splurting of her blood coming out of her neck, and her head hitting the other guy in the face was really funny. So yes, I thoroughly enjoyed this scene, and what a great way for this actress to leave the movie.
Yeah.
It is a shame that she didn't have more to do. I wanted more of her energy in this film, and we just never got it.
Or to put it another way, it'd be great if he liked horror as much as we did, right? Besson is telling a love story. That's what he's telling. And he's just not that into the parts where it would be more gothic and frightening. But anyway, we're at the climax. Believe it or not, the Romani have brought the casket back to the castle, and they could, I don't know. I imagine they'd have lots of pillow fights and food fights for centuries to go. But Priest is doing him the service of bringing the cavalry and blowing the place to pieces.
I feel like Besson tried to do more with this ending than he could. It feels like it was supposed to seem bigger, and yet I never got much beyond Christoph Waltz and Caleb Landry Jones having a tete-a-tete.
Yeah. Who's the battle here? I mean, I think it's even said. At one point, Vlad has the sword on Priest. Is your fight with God or me? Or yourself? I think that's been kind of the problem with this movie is that there hasn't really been an understandable antagonist for Vlad. He wants to be with his woman. I guess if she's consenting, that's fine. What's the problem here? The problem is God didn't want him to have that woman for whatever reason.
I got the impression, though, at some point in here, and maybe I'm getting confused, that if Vlad turns Mina into a vampire, then he dies. Or something like that. Like, he understands that once she is back with him in the castle, he is doomed.
I didn't get that. I thought that this was going to be a happy ending of them together for eternity if he got her transformed.
No, yeah, the way it's phrased, if you give up, the curse is lifted and she'll be free. The curse being that this is inappropriate, I guess. But if these people just left them alone, they would live a happy, consensual, romantic life.
Okay.
And I think again, it's a question I keep having with this movie. Him biting her neck, she got bit twice, I think. She still may need one more bite. I don't know what the rules are.
It's confusing because he turned all those people in the party with a single bite.
Right.
And yet this seems to have a 3-bite rule, which if I hadn't seen Love at First Bite wouldn't make any sense to me. It's only the knowledge I'm bringing in from other movies that 3 bites would matter. And yet that seems to be the rule they're playing with here.
In the end, what I hear is priest a la morality saying this should not happen. You should not be biting on a lady this young. And it's just inappropriate. And so the guy comes out and is like, you're right. Kill me before I have second thoughts. And it's Vlad consenting to the fact that his love is, by definition, inappropriate. And thus, he gets to die finally and float up into the heavens as a pile of ash.
And this is a tragedy. This is a love story that is not supposed to have this as the ending. Mina is much sadder that she has to deal with Jonathan now instead of stay with her boyfriend.
That's my favorite part of the movie is Jonathan's like, hey, I'm here. And she's like, I'd rather play with this dust. Ouch. I mean, there's rejection and then there's that, right? So painful. And then there's the whole weird Temple of Doom part where we find out all the gargoyles are like little bald kids.
Yeah. and they'll come out in the sunlight and do the same kind of, there's sun I haven't seen in a long time.
Yeah.
Like the kids at the end of Temple of Doom barely do too. And so are they saying that these were little kids the whole time? And it's just really weird if that's the case.
There seems to be something here about youth and what is morally right when it comes to consent and romance. I will leave it at that.
So, Brock Stewart, do you recommend this love tale, Dracula? Brock.
It's very challenging for those of us who are familiar with Dracula movies to not see how much they're basically remaking, for all intents and purposes, the Francis Ford Coppola Dracula movie. However, I'm not too down on that. I kind of like the idea that they're taking this take of Dracula, that it's the love story aspect of it more than a horror movie or whatever the heck they were doing with Bela Lugosi, talking around fireplaces for 75 minutes. I really enjoyed that they had violent scenes. They're trying to go for something with the love story. They're reimagining Dracula in a way, but they're still telling a Dracula story, not a vampire story. There are elements here that are very, very familiar. There are some really great performances that liven up the movie. There's enough going on here that I'm entertained throughout. I have problems with the plot not connecting, but overall, I'm pretty satisfied with the movie. I didn't hate it, but I definitely have problems with it. But it'd be unfair to not give this a green arrow because I was into it and I really liked a lot of the performances. And the movie looks fantastic. All the action scenes, the one we didn't talk about at the end when he starts taking out all these army guys in the castle, the beginning scenes, all the knights, the beautiful scene at the ballroom when he starts biting all the women's necks. All of that is filmed so well, and he has all different sorts of angles he's using, but it's never intrusive. Visually, it's wonderful, and I liked most of the performances, and I didn't hate the lead for doing Gary Oldman. In fact, I think he was doing that version, but wasn't doing it in a bad way. He wasn't, mocking it. He wasn't doing anything but that's how he thinks vampires act. But he's not adding anything to the character either. He's not necessarily doing a Jacob Elordi as Frankenstein's monster. You know what I mean? He's just going through the motions. However, I liked it. I liked it enough to give it a green arrow, but be very clear. It's not a perfect movie, but I found it entertaining and by far not the worst Dracula movie I've ever seen. So yeah, it's a green arrow from me.
Stewart.
Yeah, I'm landing in a similar place, Brock, where it's like, I've already said, Luc Besson movies look great and they're stupid. And that's the way that I see them. That's always how I experience them. Sometimes they're a little less stupid than others. Some of the earlier ones, I think you can kind of go along with the improbability a lot more than, say, Fifth Element. But it's always a problem if you think too much about it. I did not expect Luc Besson to give me my favorite telling of this tale. I wanted to see a good-looking take on Dracula. What shocked me was how visually derivative it was, how much it was like Coppola. I just wasn't expecting that, because he usually shines at showing us things we haven't seen before. And this one, we've seen it all before, but it looks good. on a modest budget. He doesn't have Valerian money, but it looks good enough to be entertained. Here's the thing. If we have to pick, then yeah, I'm going to say see Francis Ford Coppola's 1992 movie. But you know what? It's not a great film. That had lots of problems with it. This feels like a tightening up. In some ways, it's like giving, rather than remaking or reimagining Bram Stoker, he has faithfully remade Coppola's vision and kind of trimmed out the really bad parts, I think. And given us, some other silliness. But overall, I don't love this movie. I don't love Coppola's movie. Two imperfect movies can still get a mild recommend. And that's where I'm landing.
I am feeling as cursed as Vlad himself because I had glimmers of hope coming into this. With seeing Besson directing, Elfman scoring, and the legendary Christoph Waltz. And I thought, hey, $50 million budget? Maybe we're getting a feast. And I feel wrong, because I think this movie bites just like The Count. I woke up this morning and looked in the mirror, and because I'm not a vampire, I had to look my reflection in the eye and say, why did you do this to yourself? I could have picked a video game movie. It's not like I'm a Luc Besson devotee. I've seen 3 of his films and only liked The Professional. Lucy lacked follow-through, and I'm thinking that's not just a fluke. I'm guessing that's Besson's brand. The pacing of this story drags like a fresh corpse tied to a carriage. We're stuck in an excruciating purgatory for over half the runtime before Dracula finally decides to de-age and leave his basement. By the time he actually gets to Paris, I wasn't thirsty for blood, I was thirsty for the credits to roll. And I think this Count is charmless. He is no Gary Oldman. Watching him try to woo Mina was its own special kind of damnation. I think they had no chemistry. Watching them interact was about as sexy as a funeral and twice as stiff. I think the only person in this entire production with a pulse is Matilda De Angelis as Maria. She even puts Christoph Waltz to shame. And Waltz is providing a much-needed transfusion of charm, but the script gives him nothing to do. He's stuck in a waiting room with the hot vampire until Dracula finally decides to show up for the third act. It's like hiring a world-class vampire hunter to swat flies. So, in the film, the priest begs Dracula not to damn Mina to eternal suffering. I'm here to do the same for you, the listeners, to not damn yourself to this 2-hour coffin of boredom. Keep the shutters closed, keep the garlic out. It is a strong not recommend.
Oh, strong. Okay. I couldn't hear how much you disliked it, but I was hearing you disliked it. 2 things to that, though. Waltz has more to do here than he did in Spectre. And 2, if you grew up with sparkle vampires, if you like Twilight, I bet you if you showed Twilight fans this movie and Coppola's movie, they're going to pick this one. The love story is going to play better here than it does with Winona Ryder and Gary Oldman, for sure.
Well, not only that, the acting, as you mentioned, of Keanu Reeves and Winona Ryder, actors we all like in other movies besides that one, they felt miscast in that. This movie doesn't have that problem.
Yeah.
This movie doesn't have the miscasting problem. This movie has the logic problem, and we've all seen Twilight movies, and those same fans don't seem to care about logic all that much either, so it's going to be okay. All I'm saying is that, of course, they're going to pick this one. And honestly, I can't imagine my young teenage daughter wanting to watch this or the other movie. In fact, I'd rather show her Interview with a Vampire than show her either one of these. If she wants to watch an older vampire movie, because that movie is also 30 plus years old at this point. If she wants to follow up Twilight, which she's read and watched these movies numerous times, yes, then go to that one. I did mention to her that if she's looking for a vampire movie when she does watch these kinds of movies in October with her friends, this is not a scary one. This one actually might be something your friends may enjoy. She prefers the scary ones, but this might be something she and her friends can watch and still say they watched a scary movie, quote unquote.
We'll see how it does here. I don't imagine it'll have much box office traction, but maybe the kids will find it streaming. I'd be curious to know where it stands in reputation a year or 2 from now.
Yeah, I don't see it doing very well, and I don't think it's going to be the vision of Dracula for the ages. I think it's going to be marked down, and I noticed over the holidays there was this huge Luc Besson Blu-ray set for like $150 with most of his movies. Now, this can be added on to another $150 set, $200 set when they update it in a few years, so I think that's where this will have its legacy.
I wonder what he's going to make with this guy next. No one else is hiring Caleb for anything, it feels like. Dogman, Dracula, what else are they going to do? I can only imagine. But we're done with Dracula for now, and Luc Besson. We've got Frankenstein movies to cover, and since we all are kids of the 80s, we thought it would be fun to watch the one that came out when we were kids, The Bride. It's Jennifer Beals of Flashdance being created by Sting, the rock star of the Police.
Oh, it's Sting. I honestly keep thinking it's David Bowie for some reason, and I've never seen it.
It's on cable forever, so yeah, I'm finally going to watch it next week. And in the meantime, sorry, I know also coming out in theaters this week is Strangers Chapter 3. We still haven't done Chapter 2 yet. You're going to get that this Friday, if you're a donor.
Yep, you can find the details on how to hear all our Strangers reviews, plus our 28 Years Later reviews, our upcoming alligator and crocodile movie reviews, and so much more as part of our winter-spring donation drive at nowplayingpodcast.com/donate. And it is your support that keeps us ad-free. I thank you so much for letting us be ad-free. I have discovered a new podcast. I don't want to call it out. I actually like the podcast, but I am so tired of hearing literally 5 minutes of ads in Spanish for Kroger at the start of every episode. The irony is I'm listening to an older podcast, and so I hear 5 minutes of Kroger ads in Spanish again. So it's
Los porto ni da puta madre los anuncios de podcast son jodidamente molestos, especialmente los de Kroger. Son horribles y gracias a vuestras oyentes puedo obligarnos a ponerlos.
And then it says, ironically, you're listening ad-free on Amazon Podcasts. I'm like, I am? Then why did I just listen to 5 minutes of Kroger shit?
I didn't know Kroger was still in business. This is all news to me.
I guess another way to look at it, Arnie, is it's not Squarespace. You're not hearing thousands of ads for Squarespace, so...
No, it's Kroger and some vet service also that advertises endlessly. But I'm feeling a little racially profiled that you're playing Spanish Kroger ads for me there. Thanks. But... yes, I want to just appreciate that we do not stop mid-sentence. This podcast, mid-sentence, will then break into 3 minutes of placed ads. And it's so frustrating. And I thank all of our listeners for keeping this show ad-free and hopefully frustration-free for you, as I'm feeling this frustration with this new podcast that I'm listening to. So thank you all for your support. Brock, Stewart, thank you for biting into this Dracula with me. And now I don't think I need your services anymore. Go in peace now.
Thank you for a wonderful evening.
It has been an eternity since I have known such happiness.
Thank you for listening to this Now Playing Podcast movie review. We hope you enjoyed the show.
Joe had enough. More would be greedy.
Help us spread the word about this show by leaving a 5-star review on Stitcher, Podbean, iTunes, or your podcast store of choice.
It was now time for me to entrust the task to others.
Want more reviews like this one? In the archives section of NowPlayingPodcast.com, you'll find more than 1,000 in-depth movie reviews from our panel of hosts.
Old castles like this are filled with memories that might haunt you.
On our site, you can hear reviews for every installment in the world's biggest film franchises, including the Marvel Cinematic Universe, Star Wars, Spider-Man, Batman, X-Men, James Bond, Middle-earth, Jurassic Park, Fast and Furious, and Transformers.
My order has been studying this phenomenon for more than 400 years.
Plus, we have individual movie reviews, such as Titanic, E.T., Inception, Big Hero 6, Ready Player One, Pulp Fiction, Apocalypse Now, Dr. Strangelove, and hundreds more.
God, evil, two almost identical entities, two minds battling one another without showing themselves.
And come back to NowPlayingPodcast.com next Tuesday for another all-new movie review podcast.
This is so good. Your appetite is a pleasure to see, young man.
Support from listeners like you keeps Now Playing Podcast on the air.
You know my desires.
I know your needs.
You can donate directly by tapping the support button at NowPlayingPodcast.com.
And if you ever need any help on any occasion, I'm your servant.
Thank you. That's very kind of you.
And you can join our crowdfunding campaign for early access to new episodes, exclusive reviews, and bonus reviews.
Help me. I'll let you do whatever you want.
Now Playing Podcast is produced by Arnie Carvalho.
Exhausting, I must admit.
Associate produced by Jason Latham.
And what about me? I've done everything he has asked.
Now Playing Podcast is edited by Droop and Arnie.
Even animals are entitled to a little humanity.
The opinions expressed in this podcast are those of the individual hosts and may not reflect the views of Venganza Media Incorporated.
These are all just words. Charming words meant to deceive me.
You're right, sometimes words can deceive. Take my hands. Hands never lie.
Venganza Media Incorporated is not affiliated with, and this podcast has not been prepared, approved, or licensed by any entity that created the film analyzed herein. All movie clips and music included in this podcast are the intellectual property of their respective copyright holders. They are included here for the purpose of review, and no infringement is intended.
This man is the devil. He must be stopped as soon as possible.
Now Playing Podcast is an exclusive trademark of and may not be used without the express written permission of Venganza Media Incorporated.
A bit like an inspector on a police investigation.
Precisely, except I tried to solve the case before the murder.
Now Playing is a Venganza Media production, copyright 2026, and no part of this show may be reproduced, repurposed, or redistributed without the written permission of Venganza Media Incorporated. All rights reserved.
Life is nothing but a long, hard road, my friend. Death is a privilege that God grants you and denies me. And yet, I was one of his most faithful servants.
We got this Universal monster Bride of Frankenstein movie that is coming up. It's got Christian Bale, it's got Jesse Buckley, and that's a big movie in theaters that we're building towards.
The Bride isn't Universal, right?
Yes, it is.
It's Warner.
Huh. Why did I think it was Universal? Okay.
Right.
But it's definitely not a Universal pick?
Definitely.
Huh. Well, now I don't even know why we're doing it then. Okay. That's why we were doing it. Okay, should we not do it? We can take it all off.
I thought we were doing it just because, I mean,
it doesn't look good, so, I mean, I don't want to see it, but.
I mean, we're already invested here, I guess.
Fuck. Now, if I had known that, I legitimately thought it was Universal.
No, I thought you knew it wasn't. And
no, that's the only reason it was on the fucking calendar.
Oh, I thought you just wanted to do it and wanted to do
I don't want to see
80s
this fucking
Bride.
movie, and neither does the rest of the country. It's going to be a huge flop.
I really thought you wanted to do it.
This is Anaconda all over again, guys.
Yeah.
We thought Arnie really wanted to watch that movie.
No, I don't want to see this movie. You can tell this has got flop sweat all over it. No way. This thing's going to make like $3 million.
$3.
Yeah.
Okay, so,
all right then, back around.
Yeah, all right. Let me try to reframe this. How do I hit this?
In late 15th century Romania, Prince Vladimir of Walch. Oh my God, I can't speak tonight. This is fucking. Ooh.
Now, you do have something on your bottom teeth that looks like a bright orange spot. Is that affecting your voice? Something stuck on your mouth, maybe?
Are you wearing fangs? Oh my God, he's cosplaying.
Yes, I'm going to blame that little bit of lettuce on the bottom of my teeth there for all of my speech problems.
Let's go with it.
That's why you can't say Wallachia.
In late 15th century Romania, Prince Vladimir of Wallachia